in your shot.
All right, we will go ahead and call tonight's meeting to order. Are there any changes or adjustments to the agenda?
No.
If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second to approve the agenda. All of those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. East Sac County Schools empower all students to become productive, responsible citizens of an ever-changing global society. All right, we'll take a minute now for public input on non-agenda items. If there is none, we will go ahead and move on to the secretary report.
So we get the fund balances in there, they're kind of just holding steady. Submitted our annual report yesterday, so that's done, and then our audit is gonna be this Friday, so one thing off my plate and another one right back on it, so that's all I've got.
Good luck with the audits.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I don't have.
Okay. Any no correspondence, so then we'll move on to administrative reports. Whoever would like to
I'll
go
go
first.
first. So mine was pretty short and sweet. Our leadership team had met on last Wednesday, and with staff input from August had developed those 3 building goals that we have. So we're continuing on the model PLC by this year, 100% of those working as those teams. And then we took our behavior goal and upped it. Last year it was 80%, and we wanted to have 85% of our students with 0 or 1 referral. And then we also are looking at decreasing the percentage of students who are identified as persistently at risk. From last year to this year, we dropped it by 9%, and so now our goal this year is we want to see that go down by 15% this year. And we are getting in the process of screening students starting tomorrow. So the other thing that I had just reported on there was our Strat 2 behavior classroom. That's new this year. Steph Moore has worked to become a certified Strat 2 special education teacher with an emphasis in behavior. So she serves special education students with that behavior intervention plan in our new Strat 2 classroom. So it's part of the remodeling we had done a few years ago with the bathroom. So, but there's also a space there for general education students who possibly just need to get regulated to learn. So she uses a process in there when students come in. Some sensory input things, some things to just get them regulated and with the hopes of returning to class. You know, most of the time that works, otherwise then we have meetings and discuss that. So they're collecting data, and we'll be evaluating that space and making sure that it's being used how we want it to be used and seeing good outcomes, so. Otherwise, I was just reflecting, I was like, and homecoming was kind of in the middle of it when I did this report, so I noticed you had put that, we had the assembly on Friday, so I didn't have that in here. The kids loved that. They were roaring when the high school cheerleaders and football players and cross country and volleyball players came down, so they really enjoyed that. And yeah, just otherwise, things have been kind of just moving, beginning of school, everybody's just doing what they do. So, I don't know, that's all I had. Any questions?
Thank you.
People liking the air conditioning?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so yeah, I started mine off with homecoming. I mean, with it being kind of earlier here, it's made for a little busy start to the year, but been a lot of fun events and things that we've had. So I just tried to highlight some of those in the beginning of mine, including coronation and then some of the other events that we have tried to do throughout the week with advisor games and some fun things to throw in there with the education of the whole school year starting, I guess, to throw in some fun things was nice, but made it kind of busy. Today in PD, I mentioned that midterms are next week, and everybody was like, whoa, and I was like, yeah, I mean, it's coming up on us because we've had so many things that it just feels like we just started the year, but it's been so jam-packed that, you know, I think everybody was just kind of like, it was a big wake-up call to hear that right away too, but We also had an assembly last week on Tuesday where we had a speaker from, that's with Choices Matter, where, so his name's Steve Empton. He's in a, due to an accident that happened a long time ago, he's in a wheelchair. And so he gives this big speech on his life and how consequences can affect it, the things that are gonna happen for your, for your future, obviously, but talked about drinking and driving, talked about use of drugs and alcohol and other things that it's good to highlight with kids and make sure that they understand that how these things can affect them. But also talked a lot about perseverance and still being able to push through things in your life and achieve a lot, because he did, even after his accident too. So kind of an uplifting thing, along with the good talk about choices and everything else that's good for us to hear. And at the end of that too, there were some things that they gotta do, some interactive things with, like goggles, so like they're trying to walk a straight line and stuff, and some other stuff like that with impaired driving and other things that are good for the kids at my age, where they're able to drive to and from school, that hopefully they make good choices. So we had that on Tuesday in the middle of having our homecoming week, but it was still a really good thing for the kids to have. And then the week before, we were able to celebrate a lot of academic awards on the 5th, I think what I put on there. So we handed out a lot of awards actually from the conference. So students that were in activities and also achieved a 3.5 GPA last year. And we had 42 returning students that were given those awards. So we're really happy about that, and we wanted to celebrate that with an assembly that we had there on the 5th. And then we also had some from the junior high, from the Girls Athletic Association, or Union, sorry, Athletic Union. And we had 12 girls from that was just from the spring, who were able to earn their honor roll, which again, we wanted to celebrate all of them, not just the high school ones. So again, nice to call on them and let them be able to be recognized. So a lot of things happening early on, but some things to celebrate academic wise and some fun things to do homecoming wise, and it's a good little mix. Any questions?
Thank you.
All right, I guess that leaves my report. Just kind of want to echo things that Becky and Tony talked about. We've had a positive start to the year. It's always good to see the smiling faces. And now that homecoming is over, we hope to settle into a routine where teaching and learning are priorities, and everyone can do their job and do it well. New bus routes. So I'm pretty familiar with these. And with that, I want to say that things are going well. We have our pickup time and drop off times have improved, I think, for most families. One thing I noticed is all of our buses are getting back to the barn at the same time. So that means that our routes are pretty equitable. There's not one route that is going out and getting back before everybody else. We're all getting back at the same time. So, we had a few things at the beginning of the year, but I would say overall, in the last couple weeks, people are happy, so that's a good thing. Initial enrollment projections, we're looking to be down this year, some students. We were expecting this to some extent, knowing that our largest class in the district were seniors last year. And just some example there, we graduated 72 kids, and we currently have 42 in preschool this year. So we were expecting that to a point, and we just got to make sure that that's how we're funded. So if our enrollment goes down, we will receive less funding from the state, and we just got to be ready for that when that occurs. So official count day is October 1st, and then after all of that settles down, we'll have a better idea on what our actual count is at that time. And then I'm going to share some data with you. I know we've talked a lot about ISAT's data, but one final piece to this is we got the state averages in the last week, and so I'm going to show you some of that data right now. We talked about it at PD today, and I think for the most part, it's really good, so we want to share it with you. So what we knew is, let me see this one, that the we knew that we had a lot of growth here. That was not in question because we saw the growth across the board from 22-23. What we did not know is how that compared to the state average. So now we do. And I'll just kind of talk you through that a little bit there. So when we look at this, okay, these two bits. There we go. All right, so when we look at this, this is how we performed last year to the state average. So I got some summary data at the bottom, but you'll see the green up there. And what that is are the classes or the tests that tested above the state average. And the yellow, obviously, are our classes or tests that tested below the state average. So in this case, looking at our third graders last year, fourth graders this year, you'll see that in math, they tested above the state average, but in ELA, they tested a little bit below the state average. So that's our third grade, fourth grade, and fifth grade. 6, 7, and 8, our eighth graders, they were the one group that tied the state average on their English test. But other than that, we were looking pretty good. And then our freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. Is that. So in summary, this is what's kind of exciting. All right, so 7 out of the 21 tests our students tested below the state average. That's 33%. We had one out of the 21 tests that tied the state average, but we had 13 of the 21 tests where we tested above the state average. So about 62% of our tests, our kids tested above the state average last year. When we compare that to 22-23, in 22-23, 16 out of 21 of the tests that were given, we tested below the state average. So this was data from 2 years ago. But if you compare the two, we are sitting much better than we were a year ago. So I want to give the teachers and the administrators a ton of credit, and also our parents and our kids who took the test seriously. I think that takes, the kids have to take the test seriously if we're going to do well. And I think we got that buy-in last year. So we've talked about our growth. Now we can talk about our growth compared to their peers. And for us to be the point where 62% of our kids tested above the state average, that's where we want to be. Happy with that. I'm gonna close this one and go back to my other one. All right. So that kind of concludes my report there.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
It's nice to have some good news on the score front.
It's good
Very
news.
Yes.
It's fun to talk about professional development and also remind teachers what we did last year works, so.
All right, we will keep moving then. I don't believe we have any discussion items, so then we will move on to action items. So first up is the consent agenda. Minutes, bills, policies, and then the annual crisis plans are on the consent agenda items. I don't know if there's any questions or comments, or any highlights that you wanted to make.
I have no highlights about any of those items today.
Any questions from the board on any of those? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda A through D.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items. All of those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next up, we have our annual meeting. And I'm assuming in the past, I believe we have done these all in one motion. Are we good? Is everybody on the board okay with that this time? And I think you've got last time on the screen.
Yeah,
for us.
all of the positions were in the board packet. The two notable changes from last year, this year, is Tyler being one of them, replacing John. And then the other would be, our new high school counselor, Taylor Wood, taking over from Megan Dooley in her assigned roles there at the bottom.
Any questions, comments, concerns on any of those?
Just need a motion to approve the annual meeting schedule. Motion to approve the annual meeting schedule is laid out here. Second.
Motion and a second to approve the annual meeting schedule as displayed on the screen and in the packet. All of those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, I believe we are at personnel.
Yep, we'll do those together. Well, there's no resignations this month. Contract offers, 3 associates to the elementary building, Alex Cromwell, Chris Ramsey, Becky Doherty, Scott Stone as Director of Building and Grounds, Carter Church for head baseball, and Ted Hemlick for a route bus driver.
I'll make a motion for the personnel items to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the personnel items. All of those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I believe the only thing we have remaining tonight is the next date and time.
Yep, future items. So, the third Monday of October is gonna be October 21st. I have no conflicts on that date, so if that works for the board, we would like to hold a meeting on that day.
Works for me.
So what do you want to
We would be back in Lakeview at 6:10.
6:10?
Yep.
Works for
I
me.
think I'm out, I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. Better make sure. Lori, are you?
I can make it.
Okay.
Okay, well, we'll plan on that, and if something comes up and we have
Okay.
to change it, we'll do that. And then, future agenda items, well, this will be a discussion item on next month's agenda. The athletic directors have been talking to coaches, parents, and in our conference, most of the conference schools have junior high softball and baseball as a school-sponsored activity. What that would mean is it would possibly become just ran by the school, so we would hire coaches, we would have the transportation, we would have a conference schedule with the schools that offer it, so. Next month, either Lance or Eric will be at the meeting to talk about why, they would like to see that possibly happen. And then get some feedback from the board on if that is something that we would like to do.
Would that be like 7th, 8th grade or? they not-
7th, 8th
okay.
grade, yep.
Okay.
Generally, the games are played at, I believe, at 11 o'clock in the morning. As far as, and Eric will talk about this next week, but as far as the school's responsibility, we would just hire a coach, have our own practices, and then play a schedule with conference teams.
Any other future agenda items? If not, we're gonna have a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All of those in favor?